Subway passenger rules. No eating or drinking. No photography. Do not talk to anyone, especially people you know. This was my 13th time working overtime this month. It was pitch black when I left the office building. The streetlights on both sides of the road seemed to be out. The only light came from the subway station 30 meters to the left of the building, a stark, white glow. Weird. It was already midnight. The subway should have stopped running, right? To save on rent, I live far from my company, and a Lyft ride at night costs over $100. But the Line 13 train goes straight there, even though it takes over an hour. I suddenly remembered the recent string of missing person cases. According to the news, they all disappeared after taking a taxi late at night, and the killer still hadn't been caught. Thinking about that, I canceled my Lyft and walked toward the subway station. Next to the escalator at the subway entrance stood a sign I'd never seen before, but it was impossible to miss. It had black text on a red background, with a few strange rules. Dear passengers, a friendly reminder, unless absolutely necessary, please do not take the Line 13 train after 12 a.m. If you insist on riding, for your own safety, please strictly adhere to the following rules. None of our stations have stairs, escalators, or elevators with blue indicator lights. If you see one, do not use it. Find another way. This transit authority operates white-bodied trains only. If a train of any other color pulls into the station, ignore it, even if it stops right in front of you. Once you have boarded a white train, do not talk to anyone, especially people you know. Eating and drinking are prohibited on the train. However, if you see someone else eating or drinking, do not stop them. Give up your seat to those in need. If someone asks for your seat, you must give it to them, even if there are many other empty seats. But do not speak to them. Photography is prohibited on the train. The late-night train is automated. There are no staff members in the station or on the train. If you encounter anyone in a uniform, do not trust them. Without violating the first 7 rules, you must follow the instruction from the female voice on the PA system. Note, it must be a female voice. I looked at these bizarre rules, thinking it had to be some kind of reality TV prank. Those are really popular lately. But I thought it was dumb, so I snapped a picture to post online and complain about it. Just as I was typing out a caption, the light above me flickered twice and then went out. I looked up and felt like the end of the escalator was the gaping maw of an abyss, waiting to be fed. Thankfully, the lights came back on just as I reached the bottom of the first escalator. After taking a few steps, I was about to get on the second escalator when I caught a flash of blue out of the corner of my eye. As a designer, I've always been sensitive to color. I looked up confused and saw that the downward pointing sign that read, "Watch your step," was glowing with a blue light. A chill ran down my spine. I whipped around and realized the first escalator, the one I had just taken, was gone. Darkness stretched into more darkness. I couldn't even tell if I was looking at the night sky or my phone dinged, a message sending failure notification. I looked closely. The signal bar showed no service, and I couldn't even make an emergency call. Logic told me I should go back, but there was no way back. Just as I was about to enter the station and try to leave through another exit, I saw someone else coming in from outside. He actually walked right into that bottomless darkness. I was about to warn him, but the words got stuck in my throat. He didn't fall, he was moving downward at a perfectly steady pace. He walked up to me and asked curiously, "Hey, why are you staring at me like that?" I swallowed hard. Did you take the escalator down?" "Well, yeah." He laughed, 2 cute dimples appearing on his cheeks. "How else would I get down here?" "Fly." I looked behind him, my heart pounding. It was still pitch black. The light from my side seemed to be completely swallowed by it. It must be a reality TV prank. This actor is actually pretty cute. I can't believe they have a late-night train. This will save me a ton of money. He walked past me and stepped onto the second escalator. "Gotta go, I'm in a rush." "Wait." I spun around and called out to him. "Don't take that." The escalator was empty. Where had he gone? "Hello." I called out, but only an eerie echo answered me in the corridor. "Okay, I admit it, I'm scared," I stammered, backing away. "I don't want to play this game." I finally got back to where the first escalator should have been. The blackness was so thick it swallowed the beam from my phone's flashlight. Trembling, I tried to place my shoulder bag on the escalator, but the white bag just kept sinking as if there was nothing there. The escalator wasn't just hidden in the dark. It was really gone. I don't know what kind of technology could make an effect so realistic, but I had no choice but to move forward. To my left was the down escalator with a blue light. To my right was an up escalator with a red fluorescent sign that read, "Do not enter." After hesitating for a long time, I stepped onto the one on the right. Going the wrong way took a while, but I finally made it into the station. I still hadn't given up on getting out through another exit, but after searching the entire station, I found that the other 4 exits had all vanished. The subway station was empty, the lights on the ceiling were faint, and I thought I could hear heavy breathing right next to my ear. There was only one path left for me: swipe my card and go through the gate. At the security checkpoint, there were 3 staff members in black uniforms. They were expressionless, their eyes following my every move. Trying to act calm, I passed through the security scanner. In front of me was a row of turnstiles with green lights, but one in the middle had a blue light. Just as I was about to swipe my card, a stiff voice spoke right next to my neck. "Ma'am, please use the green lane." My hand froze. I was already at a green one. I looked down and saw that the light on my turnstile had changed to blue, and the one that was blue before was now the only green one. "If you encounter anyone in a uniform, please do not trust them." I thought for a moment and decided to stick with my original choice. Beep. Card accepted. The blue lit turnstile opened, and I walked through. It wasn't until I was on the escalator down to the lower level that I dared to look back. The 3 uniformed people were still staring at me, and without exception, they all looked disappointed. There were a few people waiting on the platform, maybe 3 or 4. One of them looked familiar, but hadn't he just vanished from the escalator? As I was looking at him, he noticed me too. He trotted over with a shy smile. "Sorry, had to run to the bathroom. Didn't expect to see you again. I'm Leo. What's your name?" The rules said do not talk to anyone after boarding the train, so I figured I could talk to him now. "I'm Sarah. I'm a designer. What about you?" "I just graduated. I'm interning at a law firm." I asked casually. "You're so handsome. Why not be an actor?" Leo waved his hand, leaned in closer, and lowered his voice. "Speaking of actors, don't you think this subway station is a little weird today? Especially that sign at the entrance. If he noticed the sign with the rules, why did he take the escalator with the blue light? These prank shows seem to be really popular lately. That's why I didn't believe any of that stuff. I decided to do the opposite, just to see what would happen." I didn't answer because the first escalator really had disappeared. In the silence, I heard a loud roar. The ground vibrated slightly, and a blinding light shot out from the dark tunnel entrance as the train pulled into the station. It was a silver-gray train. The doors opened, and everyone else got on without a second thought. "Aren't you getting on?" Leo looked back at me. "This transit authority operates white-bodied trains only. If a train of any other color pulls into the station, ignore it, even if it stops right in front of you." When he saw I wasn't moving, Leo burst out laughing. "You don't actually believe those ridiculous rules, do you?" "Yeah, maybe I do," I said, taking 2 steps back. "I think I'll wait for the next one." Leo thought for a moment, then stepped back off the train. "It's late. I'll wait with you." I looked at him, a strange feeling creeping into my heart. Soon, the beeping sound of the doors closing echoed, and the train quickly pulled away from the station. Everything seemed normal, but I could smell the faint, lingering scent of blood in the air. This made me even more certain that the rules were real. Leo stood next to me, probably getting bored. He took some snacks out of his bag and handed me a caramel. "Want one?" I shook my head because another train was pulling in. This time it was white. Other than the color, it looked identical to the previous one. I hesitated for a moment, then walked on and sat in the nearest seat. The car was empty, except for Leo and me. As the doors closed, a gentle female voice came over the PA. "Good evening, dear passengers. This train is bound for W Community. During your ride, please listen carefully to the announcements and follow the corresponding rules." The announcement played on a loop. Leo unwrapped a candy and tossed it into his mouth. The sweet scent instantly filled the air. "Hey, Sarah, what stop are you getting off at?" I didn't answer because once you have boarded a white train, Do not talk to anyone, especially people you know. Leo had just broken 2 rules. I looked at him with concern. He seemed to read my mind, shrugged nonchalantly, and smiled. It's fine, I'm not scared. But hey, if something does happen to me, you'll save me, right? I really wanted to tell him I wouldn't. But in the end, I just looked away. I was waiting to see what punishment would befall someone who broke the rules. When the train reached the next station, a dozen or so people suddenly flooded in. Then the female announcer spoke again, with a different message this time. It is a traditional virtue to give up your seat to the elderly and the young. Please offer your seat and find another one for yourself only after everyone else is seated. Please do not stand and do not lean against the doors. If there are no empty seats in your car, please proceed to another car. I hesitated about giving up my seat. Leo, who had broken the rules, was casually leaning back with his eyes closed, humming a song. He seemed perfectly fine. Soon, 2 men were standing in front of Leo and me. At first glance, they looked ordinary, but they were staring at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I stood up and pulled Leo up with me. He opened his eyes and asked, confused, "What's up?" I pointed to the man standing in front of him, signaling for him to give up his seat. The announcement repeated again. Leo just laughed it off. "Nah, I'm not giving up my seat. What's he gonna do about it? You can't save someone who's determined to die." There were no more empty seats in this car, so I shook my head and started walking to the next one. Leo suddenly grabbed my arm. "Seriously, Sarah? You're starting to scare me. The doors are about to close. All passengers, please be seated." The announcement sounded again. I shook Leo's hand off and hurried into the next car. Leo was acting too strange, almost like he was trying to get me to break the rules. The new car was completely empty, yet I could hear the jumbled sound of conversations. Strangely, no matter how hard I tried to focus, I couldn't make out what they were saying. The train left the station and entered the tunnel. Suddenly, all the lights in the car went out. In the pitch-black darkness, the conversations became clearer, as if they were right beside my ear. The PA system came on, but this time it was a deep, magnetic male voice. "Dear passengers, it is now mealtime. Please enjoy your food." Instantly, the sound of chewing replaced the chatter, rising and falling all around me. It sounded like rats gnawing on bones, a sound that echoed through the sealed car and made my scalp tingle. Terrified, I squeezed my eyes shut, curled up on the seat, and trembled. Cold sweat dripped down my forehead. The smell of blood in the air grew stronger. What were they or it eating? I don't know how long the darkness lasted, but the bright lights suddenly snapped back on. The horrifying, desperate chewing sounds vanished instantly. The empty car was still just me, and there were no traces of blood anywhere. I clutched my phone tightly. Maybe if I opened the camera, I could see some clue, but an uncontrollable trembling warned me, no photography. "Sarah? What's wrong?" Someone tapped my shoulder twice. I opened my eyes and saw Leo. He was still alive and perfectly fine. I was about to speak, but then I remembered the no talking rule. "You look awful. Are you not feeling well?" Leo was getting frantic. "Say something." The smell of blood lingered in my nose. I took a few deep breaths to calm myself, then shook my head. He sat down next to me again. "If you're really that scared, how about we get off at the next stop and grab a cab?" "That's right. Maybe I could get out from another station." The female announcer's voice came on as expected. "Dear passengers, the next stop is Grand Plaza Station. Please exit in an orderly fashion through the doors on the right side, in the direction of travel. A friendly reminder, no matter what you encounter while exiting the station, remain firm in your intention to leave. We remind you again that line 13 is an automated line. After 12 a.m., there are no staff on the train or in the stations. If you see anyone in a uniform, do not trust them." The beautiful voice delivered an incredibly bizarre message, sending a chill through my whole body. The train was fast, and in just 2 or 3 minutes, we were pulling into the station. The doors on both sides of the train opened simultaneously. The left side was brightly lit, with all the indicators on the electronic signs glowing green. The right side was pitch black, as if it were in another world. I was undecided. Leo instinctively started to exit on the left. The moment he stepped out of the car, I grabbed his hand and darted out through the right side door. After getting off, I looked back at the train. The light source, just a step away, was powerful, but the pale white light seemed blocked by one-way glass, unable to penetrate the darkness. I carefully reached out my hand. It proved there was no barrier between the car and the platform. "This is too weird." Leo voiced my exact thoughts. I turned on my phone's flashlight and shined it forward, discovering that the light from my phone wasn't being swallowed or blocked. Leo and I hesitantly stepped onto the stairs. The train's doors beeped and closed, and it roared away. And in that instant, all the lights on the opposite platform vanished. In reality, Grand Plaza Station never opens the doors on both sides. For trains heading toward W Community, the left side is a solid wall. There has never been a platform there. If Leo frequently took the Line 13 train, he couldn't possibly not know this. I glanced at him secretly. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could clearly hear the pulsing of blood in my ears. We climbed dozens of stairs in the darkness. By all accounts, we should have reached the station concourse by now. Leo suddenly stopped. "Are we trapped in a loop?" he muttered. I shined my phone's light at him. The not so bright light made him squint. "Whoa, you scared me." He seemed to be chewing something, and it wasn't the caramel from before. I didn't smell anything sweet, but a faint, indescribable odor began to spread. It was like the foul stench of a gutted fish, but with a faint, sweet scent of osmanthus mixed in. "What do we do now?" I asked, trying to remain calm. The rules didn't mention anything about getting trapped in a loop. Leo scoffed. "I told you those rules were bull. They just turned off the lights to trap us here with some kind of mechanism." He thought for a moment and said, "If we run fast enough, the mechanism won't have time to set up a new staircase." I nodded. At his signal, we both took off, running with all our might. The light from my phone bounced wildly, and soon, our heavy panting filled the air. I was already running out of stamina. Fortunately, I finally saw a faint light at the top of the stairs. Leo turned around and grabbed my hand. "Just a little more. We're almost there." I was about to answer when the world suddenly spun, and a feeling of weightlessness quickly washed over me. The stairs beneath my feet vanished. My phone slipped from my hand and tumbled into the darkness. I fell into an endless, dark abyss. After falling for who knows how long, I landed on a cold, hard floor. Strangely, I didn't feel any pain. Logically, falling at that speed should have either splattered my brains or left me paralyzed. I carefully stood up. The feeling of solid ground under my feet was incredibly reassuring. A few fluorescent lights were scattered across the ceiling above. They seemed to have bad connections, flickering rapidly with the crackling sound of a short circuit. In the dim light, I could see where I was. It looked like an old, dilapidated subway station. The platform had no safety doors, the metal everywhere was rusted, and the ground and walls were covered in black stains. My phone seemed to have fallen onto the tracks, its flashlight still on. The temperature here was exceptionally low. Cold wind howled past like a speeding train, and every breath felt like a stab to my lungs. Holding my breath, I jumped down from the meter-high platform and walked to the middle of the tracks to pick up my phone. The phone was completely undamaged, not even a scratch. I turned off the flashlight and put the phone in my pocket. Just as I was about to climb back onto the platform, a blinding light pierced the darkness, shining straight through my body. A deafening clank-clank sound followed. Against the light, I saw a train speeding toward me. It was as if it had appeared out of thin air. My legs were frozen, and I had no idea which way to dodge. Besides, it was moving so fast, it would hit me in the blink of an eye. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? The violent shaking of the ground made my vision shake with it. My adrenaline skyrocketed, and my brain went into overdrive, but I couldn't think of any way to avoid death. Finally, I could only close my eyes in despair and resignation. I couldn't figure out where I had gone wrong. I hadn't broken any rules. The whistling in my ears disappeared, and the ground stopped shaking. My body could still move, and I felt no pain. In disbelief, I slowly opened my eyes and found myself inside a train car. The lights in the car were also dim. Not far away, it looked like two people were sitting, but I couldn't see them clearly. I felt a sense of having survived a disaster. I suddenly relaxed. My legs went weak, and I collapsed to the floor. I gasped for air, my lungs feeling like they were about to explode, and cold sweat soaked through my clothes. After a long while, my senses started to return. I realized the train was moving, but the scene outside the window was always the same dilapidated station. I seemed to be trapped in an even bigger loop. Thinking of this, I took a deep breath and shakily opened my phone's camera. The scene that appeared on my screen almost drove me insane. Blood was flowing everywhere on the train. One moment people were alive, the next they were torn apart by an invisible force, their expressions frozen in a moment of terror. Then, their body parts began to disappear piece by piece. The subway rules said no photography. Was it possible that, if I had used my phone camera on the Line 13 train, I would have seen the same hellish scene? Suddenly, I felt like I was being watched by something. The feeling was so terrifying it made my scalp tingle and my whole body tremble. I screamed instinctively and started running. I had to escape this place. But no matter how fast I ran, that feeling of being watched like needles on my back followed me closely. The image on my phone screen didn't change much. The torturer never appeared. And to my horror, I realized I couldn't exit the camera mode. My lungs started to ache, my legs grew weak, and I couldn't go on. I collapsed to the floor. Through my phone screen, I saw my head land right on a heart. Suddenly, I felt a cold, sticky sensation on my ankle, as if a hand had grabbed it. I broke down, crying, kicking my legs frantically to shake off the invisible hand. My back hit a door, the door to the driver's cab. Without a second thought, I scrambled inside and quickly shut the door. The nauseating feeling on my ankle was gone. The scene in the driver's cab was slightly less terrifying. There was even a faint scent of osmanthus. Through my phone, I saw a person in a uniform frantically scribbling a note and stuffing under a chair. I fumbled under the chair for a moment and found a crumpled piece of paper. On the note, written in messy handwriting, was, "If someone is reading this note, it means I've already been eaten by them. No one knows what they are. Resistance is futile. You can only survive by following the rules. 1. Don't scream. Don't panic. Pretend you don't see anything. 2. The humans they impersonate cannot distinguish colors. Be careful to tell them apart from real humans. 3. The camera can lead you to the right exit, but remember not to act strangely. 4. Staff in blue uniforms are trustworthy. You can ask them for help at any time." Reading this note, I felt a deep chill run through me. The piercing sound of claws scratching at the door echoed in my ears. I struggled to my feet, but my legs trembled so badly that I fell several times. The train was moving at high speed, but its headlights only illuminated a distance of less than 100 meters. I took a long time to steel myself, then opened the door to the driver's cab. The hellish scene was something no normal person could bear to look at, but the will to survive trumped everything. That nauseating touch returned to my ankle. The unknown terror gnawed at me, but I had to force myself to stay calm. I held my phone up, scanning every corner. Gradually, I started to feel that the sea of blood and mountain of corpses weren't so bad after all. Finally, outside a window in one of the cars, I saw a spot that was clearly brighter than the rest of the environment. The train was moving fast and never stopped. The main problem now was how to get off. The thing clinging to me never disappeared. It was waiting for me to show a weakness so it could tear me to shreds. I would not let it win. The window only reflected my calm, expressionless face. As I watched the bright light flash by countless times, an idea sparked in my mind. I started to stretch my muscles. My foot crushed someone's organ, and a sudden splash of blood stained my clothes, but none of it would leave even the slightest mark on me. Because I and this hell were not in the same dimension, even though our spaces overlapped. That unknown creature could break through dimensions, but it couldn't harm me directly. I prepared to sprint. Just as the train was about to pass the bright spot, I leaped out with all my strength. There was no obstacle. I landed squarely on the tracks, completely unharmed. I didn't dare to linger. I used every ounce of my strength to climb onto the platform and ran wildly toward the hope of life. They seemed to have discovered my intention, because I heard terrifying roars behind me. I could clearly feel something chasing me from behind. They were fast. In the blink of an eye, I heard that familiar chewing sound. The sound was identical to the one on the Line 13 train earlier. This further confirmed my suspicions. In this environment, my brain was unusually sharp. I suddenly remembered the announcement from when I got off the train. A friendly reminder: no matter what you encounter while exiting the station, remain firm in your intention to leave. I thought with all my might, I want to get out. I want to leave this godforsaken place. And it worked. The distance between me and them grew. I was getting closer and closer to the bright light. Soon, I would reach that point of light. It was so dazzling, like it came from another world. In fact, it was a gateway to another world. Because there, I saw Leo and 2 staff members in blue uniforms. I no longer had any doubts. I reached out my hand and yelled, "Quick, give me a hand." The 3 of them struggled to pull me back to the real world. Due to inertia, I fell hard on my butt. I lay on the smooth floor, the energy-saving lights on the ceiling, so bright they hurt my eyes, but they were so beautiful. Like a dying fish, I gasped for air, wanting to swallow all the air around me. Leo handed me a bottle of water and helped me up. His face was full of concern. "Are you okay? You're okay now." I chugged half the bottle of water and thanked them. But my happiness lasted less than a minute before bad news sent me plunging back into an icy pit. Leo said, "I don't know what's going on, but the metal gates at all the exits have been pulled down. We can't open them." The other 2 staff members also looked confused. "And there's no cell signal. This has never happened before." "What do we do?" Leo asked, comforting me. "Should we just wait here until morning?" That would have been an excellent suggestion, if the darkness from the stairwell wasn't spreading outwards. "What the hell is going on? Do you still think this is a TV show?" I stared at Leo and asked, "What did you just experience?" "I turned around and you were gone. I looked for you for a while, but couldn't find you, so I told these 2 ladies. We went to look for you again and accidentally found that the exit gates were locked. When we came back, we saw you running up the stairs." After Leo finished, the 2 staff members confirmed his story. I quietly unlocked my phone, and when the 3 of them weren't looking, I opened the camera and pointed it at them. A few seconds later, the heavy weight in my chest finally lifted. They were not them. Even so, I insisted on going to check the exits myself. As expected, all 4 exits were sealed shut with welded steel doors. The staff had remote keys, but they couldn't open them. When we returned to the concourse, the darkness spreading from the stairwell had already consumed more than half the space. With no other choice, we had to take the accessible elevator down to the platform level. I asked the staff members if they had seen the rules posted at the station entrance. They said they had never heard of them. But when I asked about the late-night train, they said that only Line 13 ran a late-night service. From midnight to 6 a.m., there was 1 train every hour. Because Line 13 runs through the city from north to south, passing hundreds of office buildings and a dozen large factories, people often work overtime until the early morning. But I had never known about this late-night train service. I looked at the time. It was 12:57 a.m. If nothing went wrong, the second train should arrive in 3 minutes. But just like last time, the silver gray train appeared first. "That's weird. All our company's trains are white," said the young woman named Linda. The other staff member, Rachel, agreed. Leo and I exchanged a look, and we told them about the rules we knew. "No way. We've worked for the transit company for over 3 years and have never heard of anything like that." Even so, Leo and I stopped the 2 of them from boarding the train. Sure enough, just as the silver gray train pulled away, a white train followed, right behind it into the station. The longer we waited, the more dangerous the platform became. So we really had no choice. As soon as we got on the train, several pairs of eyes in the car stared straight at us. Linda and Rachel, in their uniforms, wanted to ask the other passengers about the situation. I wanted to stop them because of the 3rd rule. Once you have boarded a white train, do not talk to anyone, especially people you know. But then I remembered that Leo had also broken this rule, and nothing had happened to him. Instead, I was the one who followed all the rules and almost died. And the rule left in the driver's cab said, "Staff in blue uniforms are trustworthy." After thinking it over, I placed my hopes on the two girls who were about my age. Just as Linda and Rachel were talking to the other passengers, the female voice on the PA started playing the 8 rules on a loop. For a moment, I started to waver again. The two staff members questioned a few passengers from their names and identities to checking their belongings, and after confirming they weren't carrying anything dangerous, they came back looking relaxed. Someone must have deliberately programmed the broadcast in the driver's cab. We're going to check it out. Do you want to come with us? Leo and I both nodded and followed them. I noticed that there were quite a few passengers on this train. The few cars we passed through had about 40 or 50 people in total. During this time, the train stopped at 2 more stations and a few more people got on. The eerie thing was, no one was playing on their phones. Most were either sleeping in their seats or staring blankly ahead. When we reached the first car, a middle-aged man suddenly stood up in terror. He rushed over to Leo and me, grabbed us both, and pulled us a couple of meters away from Linda and Rachel. Leo was confused. "Mister, what are you doing?" I looked at the man's eyes and instantly understood his intention. He must have believed the rules, thinking the staff were dangerous, and on top of that, Leo was talking to him. He sheepishly let go of Leo, then looked at him with a sorrowful expression. "Sir, we need to get to the driver's cab. If you don't need help, please don't obstruct us," Linda reminded him. The man became confused because Leo and Linda had both broken the rules. Breaking the rules leads to punishment. This was common sense that everyone here accepted. So even though the rules didn't explicitly state what would happen if you broke them, we all assumed it would be something life-threatening. The man also let go of my hand. "Sorry, I was overthinking things." I shook my head to say it was fine and followed Linda and the others. But I had a strong sense of unease, a feeling that urged me to turn back. Well, I did turn back. The car was empty. Where was the man from a moment ago? In less than a minute, I hadn't heard any strange noises, and even now, I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. But a living, breathing man had just vanished. I frantically caught up to Leo, grabbed him, and pointed desperately at the car we had just left. Leo quickly understood. "The man from before is gone." I nodded anxiously. The rules were real. A living person had vanished without a sound. I wanted to open my camera. I desperately wanted to know if an invisible force had torn that man to pieces, if his organs were scattered at my feet. But I didn't dare. I didn't dare break the rules. But just then, Rachel opened the door to the driver's cab. She interrupted Leo and turned to us. "Hurry up, get in." I instinctively took a step back, because I suddenly remembered that between the 2 sets of rules, the one at the station entrance and the one in the driver's cab, only one rule was contradictory, the one about the staff. I found an orange picture in my phone's photo album, added a line of text, and held the phone up to Linda and Rachel. The two of them looked at each other, then at me with complete exasperation. "What is wrong with you? We're in the middle of this, and you're messing around with this nonsense." They had deliberately avoided the question. I turned the screen to Leo. He answered without hesitation, "It's orange." I'm not colorblind. Leo could distinguish colors. So why hadn't he disappeared even though he had clearly broken the rules? Before I could figure it out, Linda and Rachel had already entered the driver's cab. But a long time passed, and they didn't come out. And the broadcast didn't stop. Leo and I finally realized something was wrong. "Go in and see." I strongly disagreed with this suggestion. Their life or death had nothing to do with me. I just wanted to get home safely and never take the Line 13 train again. Leo didn't insist. He closed his eyes, which was unusual for him. At that moment, the female voice broadcasted the "give up your seat" rule again, along with the friendly reminder. Just like last time, many people boarded the train. But this time, my car was completely empty. Still, I quietly stood up. I walked to the side of the door, and after making sure Leo's eyes were still closed, I quickly took out the emergency hammer. "The doors are about to close. All passengers, please be seated." After hearing the announcement, I sat down next to Leo again. Then, all the lights in the train went out. The male voice on the PA replaced the looping female voice. "Dear passengers, it is now mealtime. Please enjoy your food." The familiar chewing sound started again. Even though this was the 3rd time I'd heard it, I was still shaking with fear. The emergency hammer I held high in the air wouldn't come down. I bit my tongue. The pain gave me a moment of clarity. Finally, I made up my mind. I brought the pointed end of the hammer down hard on where I remembered Leo's head to be. Again and again, I used all my strength. Soon, I felt a warm liquid splash onto my face, mixing with my tears, burning my skin. But Leo never made a sound. If it weren't for the solid impact of the hammer, I would have thought I had missed him completely. This also proved, from another angle, that Leo was not human. Repeatedly breaking the real rules, deliberately trying to get me to break them, the foul smell mixed with osmanthus on his body being the same as in the hellish driver's cab. There were too many suspicious things. What confirmed it for me was that Linda could distinguish colors. Because when she saw the silver gray train, she said that her company's trains were only white. So why did she deliberately avoid my question about the color? After ruling out other possibilities, the only answer was that she wanted me to firmly believe that Leo is trustworthy. The recoil made the web of my thumb go numb. I figure I must have smashed Leo's head to a pulp by now, but I couldn't be sure. After all, I had no idea what kind of thing it was. This was the only thing I could do. The chewing continued, and my eyes could only see darkness. I swung my arm mechanically until the hammer hit the body of the train with a loud clang. The sound was like a nail piercing a balloon. The emergency hammer fell from my hand. All the strength drained from my body, and I collapsed onto the seat. Do you believe that gods exist in this world? Leo's voice suddenly echoed in the darkness, like a demon's whisper, right beneath our feet. Then he let out a soft laugh, and I saw a pair of crimson eyes. How is that possible? His head should have been a pile of mush. Oh, right. He isn't human. I understood this hopeless fact. Sarah, congratulations. You've passed the test. The hair on my body stood on end. I wanted to ask him what he meant, but I didn't dare to speak and break the rule. You can now ignore the rules, just like me. Leo pulled me to my feet. I couldn't resist. I felt like a puppet, completely at his mercy. He led me into the driver's cab. The cab was lit, and I could clearly see what Leo looked like now. His head was indeed a pulpy mess, his eyes glowed with a crimson light, and his lips were turned up in what looked like a happy smile. And my clothes were covered in blood and gore. "Oh, did I scare you?" he said, as if he'd just realized, and smiled apologetically. One moment, I watched as his head healed at an incredible speed, returning to that handsome face with the two cute dimples when he smiled. He pointed straight ahead out of the cab. "Look," he said, "the world of the gods." At this point, I had completely lost the will to resist or escape. So, naturally, I looked where he pointed. The tracks served as a boundary. Above was the tunnel, and below was a scene of dazzling, flowing colors. I have no words to describe those colors. Nothing I've ever seen could compare. It was 10,000 times more beautiful than a starry sky. But it was also 100,000 times more terrifying, because in those lights, dense swarms of monsters were swimming. Their bodies were enormous, yet incredibly thin, like a normal person had been stretched out like noodles to be 4 or 5 meters long. They've existed longer than this city, this country, even longer than humanity, Leo said with fascination. So, it's a great honor to be their emissary. Why me? I'm just an ordinary office worker, constantly working overtime, stressing about buying a house, with no social life. My entertainment is watching shows and playing games. There are people like me everywhere. So why choose me? The gods feed once every 3 months, Leo began to explain. Line 13 is the only place that connects the 2 dimensions. And you, I've been observing you for a long time. It turns out my judgment was correct. You have a strong mind, a keen eye for detail. You stay calm under pressure. In fact, before you, I tested countless people. Very few survived. Countless? Let me think. Probably thousands. Leo smiled at me. Oh, and I'm over 300 years old. So don't call me kid. Ha! I murmured, is this the power of the gods? Yes, they are very powerful, and they mean no harm. They just need to eat regularly. Eat? Could he not talk about something so bloody and terrifying so casually? I stared at the beautiful world below the tracks and gradually felt a fatal attraction. That's right, it's just eating. Everyone has to eat. What's wrong with that? Leo looked up and stroked my head, whispering softly, Sarah, look how beautiful they are. I looked on with a yearning expression and agreed. Yes, they are. I want to become one of them, too. He ruffled my hair and said dotingly, Sarah is such a good girl. My name is Chris, and I'm a programmer at a gaming company. As a programmer, I'm stuck in the 24/7 grind. Today, I worked overtime as usual. By the time I was done, it was almost 1 in the morning. As I packed my things, I cursed the evil capitalists. I swear to God, I don't want to work this crappy job for another day. But even with those thoughts, my wallet would never let me quit. I even have to think twice about taking a cab at night because my girlfriend and I are planning to get married, and I need to save for a house. When I left the office building, I was surprised to see that the subway station next door was still open. Great, I can save a few dozen bucks. The place I live isn't too far, but not exactly close either. The Line 13 train can get me there directly in half an hour. I put on my headphones and walked toward the station. I noticed a weird sign at the escalator entrance, but I was in a hurry to get home and didn't pay much attention. When I got to the platform, I was surprised to see so many people there at this hour. Standing next to me was a beautiful woman with a great figure. I couldn't help but stare a little. She seemed to notice me looking and turned to give me a sweet smile. Hi, I'm Sarah. Do you work in the XX building too? A pretty girl was talking to me. Looks like I've still got it. Yeah, you too. I replied politely. I'm Chris. You look familiar. Have we met somewhere before? I also wanted to say that her name sounded familiar, but I didn't want her to think I was some cheesy creep, so I kept that part to myself. Really? Maybe I just have one of those faces. Sarah smiled and was really pretty. She looks like that and calls a common face? What chance do the rest of us have? I didn't want to call her out on it, so we just made small talk for a bit. Just then, a silver gray train pulled into the station. Weird. Did the transit company get new trains? I thought they were all white, but Sarah was already getting on and waving me over. I didn't think much of it and followed her, taking the seat next to her. The beeping sound echoed as the doors slowly closed. And then, I suddenly remembered a woman named Sarah. She was an employee at a design firm in my office building who had mysteriously vanished 3 months ago. The official report said she disappeared after taking a taxi late at night. There had been many similar cases, but the police had never caught the killer. Hey, what company did you say you work for again? Sarah slowly smiled, not answering my question. It doesn't matter anymore. She stood up and disappeared right before my eyes. Before I could even be surprised, I felt a sharp, intense pain throughout my body. I watched with my own eyes as my body was torn in two, my organs thrown to the ground, and the rest of me disappearing piece by piece. But soon, I couldn't see anything and I couldn't feel any pain. My last memory was of my fiancé's face, waiting for me to come home.